Hi, welcome to Addiction Recovery Plays podcast, the podcast champion addiction treatment professionals around the world. I'm your host, Chris Langley, and I'm very pleased to introduce today's guest, Sabrina Vonderhaar. Sabrina is the licensed mental health counsellor and addiction specialist located here in Iowa. Welcome to Addiction Recovery Plays podcast, Sabrina. It's great to have you join us today.
Thank you so much, Chris. I am actually really happy to be here, and thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Really excited to speak to you today and to find out about your work and your career. So we're just going to kick things off first. So can you tell us about yourself and your journey and how you started your own practice?
Sure. So though I was born and raised in Iowa, my journey actually started in New York City. I went to John Jay College and I got my bachelor's in forensic psychology, and then I went on to get my master's in forensic mental health counseling. And that kind of gave me the really deep background that I use now in the criminal justice system and the legal issues with mental health. As soon as I graduated, I came back to Iowa, and then I started working as a family support specialist with DHS, and that really opened up my eyes to the drug use and addiction in Iowa specifically. So as soon as I could, I transitioned into a counselor position in an outpatient center in Dubuque, Iowa, and thus began my career of actual addiction counseling.
So how long ago did you start your career? When did you start your qualifications?
About 5 years ago.
5 years. Excellent.
Yeah.
So what was it about Iowa that made you want to, help people with addictions? What was it about that was going on in your home state?
I don't know if it was because I'm from here and I just am so close with everybody, and I felt like this is my home. I should be giving back to my home, because I definitely didn't feel it when I was in New York. I didn't feel like that sense of belonging there like I do here. So I think it was just because it's where I'm from.
Yep. I love that. You specialize in helping people, but can you tell us about what your specialized approach is when you're working with professionals? Because that could be quite a different client group to work with, obviously. So can you tell us about why you started working with the professionals and what you do?
It sure is a fun group to work with. So within the professionals, I work with addiction and anger management specifically. And I chose professionals because they're kind of put aside. A lot of people forget about them. It's not something that people really realize that professionals are going through. People think addiction is very messy. So they think of people who are in the criminal justice system, like already in jail, coming out of it, that sort of thing. But professionals struggle just as much as anyone else. So I think that's where I went into wanting work with professionals, is because when I was in the outpatient center, I saw a lot of professionals who were so scared of what's going to happen to their life. And they think not only are they going to lose their job, they're going to lose their license, they're going to lose their kids. And so I kind of wanted to be that person to help them.
That's incredible. That's really good that you found a client group that you can really relate to and to who need the help that you are able to give. So what was it that made you want to specialize in helping professionals? I understand you just explained that, but what are some of the challenges that could be faced when working with this client group?
So I would say the biggest challenge working with professionals is that they're so smart. So they are so good at intellectualizing their feelings and rationalizing it all. So they treat their mental health like a problem that needs to be fixed. So they're looking for a quick fix. They're looking for something to be solved instantaneously. And as we know, that's not something that's possible. So I think that would be the biggest hurdle working with professionals. And then the other one is the fear of losing things like their license, their kids, that sort of stuff. So they're scared of asking for help. So a lot of them stay closed off and really don't try and open up.
Hmm. So, so when you're working with a professional, I guess it takes a long time to build trust. I think is a big one, as you just mentioned, when you're working with professionals, possibly even law enforcement officers as well.
Mhm.
I suppose. I mean, that's quite common. I work with some clients in England who were in the criminal justice field as well. So I'm going to mention stigma now. I was going to ask you about this later, but do you think stigma of addiction can stop someone entering a service?
Of course, I think that is probably the biggest barrier of everything.
Mm.
People are so worried about their view of what other people view them, and not only that, but their view of addiction. And then they assume other people see it that way too. So the shame of it all.
So why do you think it is that stigma has such a barrier to someone to enter treatment? I'm kind of, this is a question I ask all of my guests, and it's such a problem in today's society with entering treatment and I think stigma is one of the biggest barriers of all. So can you go into a little bit more detail as to kind of why do you think that is?
I think stigma, though, we are really trying to get away from it. I mean, there's so many nonprofits and people out there trying to help end that stigma. It's just something that is innate in our society. It's something that's still talked about. You see TV shows all the time where it's just ragged on all the time. And it's just something that people see. So then they think that's the normal and they think that's how they need to be. And so then that goes down to the family tree of they teach their kids that, then they teach their grandchildren that. And not only is it like something the families teach each other, friends do it as well. I mean, I can remember being in a high school student and people were messing with and bullying those who smoked weed or stuff like that. Like, it's just something that happens even when we were kids. And it's not something that seems to be going away anytime soon either.
Yeah. So do you think it's improving at all with the stigma because we're able to have these conversations a little bit more maybe with what's happening online? Do you think that could possibly help?
It's definitely talked about more, but I don't know if that's because of my profession and what I do versus, the common person. But I do think that there's a lot more events. I mean, specifically where I live, we try and put on so many more events, not only for mental health, but for addiction as well. And I know that that's something that, statewide we've been working on as well. So I think it is, talked about more, but I don't know if it's getting the wide variety of people that we would like.
Sure. Something I would like to mention, Sabrina, you recently wrote an article on QueerPsych about queer people in recovery. Can you tell us about this and about your work at the LGBTQ plus committee at NAADAC?
Yeah, for sure. So I wrote the article for QueerPsych that highlighted the unique intersection of recovery and the queer identity. So we know that those in the LGBTQIA2S plus community face higher rates of substance use. Often they use it as a coping skill for minority stress, discrimination, family rejection. There's just a wide variety of issues that they face that those who are not within the queer community don't face. So I wrote that, and I am actually currently writing my second one for that. So that will be probably next year in January. They'll upload that on there. My work with the NAADAC committee is about advocacy on the national level. We want to ensure that recovery spaces are safe and inclusive, which is a big issue. A lot of people, though they say they're an ally, don't really understand what that means or how to treat somebody within the community. They just think you say and do everything like you do with everybody else. And that's not how you go about it. And too often queer people enter treatment and hide parts of themselves, not only because they're worried what the therapist might think, but they're worried that the therapist will tell other people or show it in the world somehow. So my work ensures that we are treating addiction while celebrating the identity, not just treating the identity as a part of the problem.
So was your article well received?
Yes, they loved it. And I mean, close to my heart, some of my family members are in the community and they messaged me and they really enjoyed it. And they told me they felt seen and heard. And that was probably the biggest applause I could have ever gotten. And it felt so good to hear.
Yeah, that's lovely feedback. That really is. Well, congratulations on writing that article. That's absolutely amazing. And we'll be putting a link into the show notes here. So if anyone would like to read this work, please go ahead and click the link below. So another thing I'd like to mention, Sabrina, you also sit on the board of Iowa Association for Addiction Professionals, which is the state's affiliate of NAADAC. Can you tell us about why you're a member of NAADAC and why someone who is working in the recovery field should consider becoming a member?
Yeah, so I am a member of NAADAC and I'm currently the president-elect for IAAP. And I think that's vital because I believe we keep raising the bar for our profession. We need to keep raising that bar. Addiction treatment is evolving fast. People are being involved. Us being involved ensures that we are bringing the best advocacy and evidence-based treatment back to our clients. And I think that's what we're doing within NAADAC and also IAP. Want to get the ball a little more rolling in there. And I would say beyond that, not only with NAADAC, but other boards I'm a part of, like Mental Health America, and I'm also a volunteer with NAMI and some local coalitions. But I use all of the information from all of the other different committees and coalitions to try and get everything on the same page, because I think so much we are so separate, because we talk all the time, we're in separate pillars, everybody's out for their own. And I really want to help reduce that and bring everybody together.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. So what are the benefits of becoming a member of NAADAC, would you say? If someone's just starting out in their career as maybe a peer-to-peer recovery support worker, what benefits can someone gain from just becoming a member?
The biggest benefit is probably the community that you have. When you're a member, there's some like talking boards that you can be a part of, and you can ask questions, and you don't have to worry about people coming at you. Facebook has a lot of groups with therapists, and then you ask a question and people just become rude and come at you because you don't know every answer that there is. And I don't think I've ever heard anything like that with NAADAC. And I think that was probably the biggest thing that NAADAC has to offer as a member. I mean, they have so many awesome ones as well. I get my liability insurance through that because they have a discount with APA. There's free trainings, the CEUs, which are a godsend. I love doing those all the time. Let's see what else. There's just so much community there. I think I'm going to reiterate that. That's just the biggest one for me, is the people I met and all of the people I can count on and rely on.
Yep. We've also got the conference next year as well, haven't we? In August, local to us down in Kansas. So hopefully we'll be there for that one. That's for sure. One of the last questions, I ask all of my guests this because I get some interesting and very varied answers, Sabrina, but can you tell us what your opinion of harm reduction and how it can play such a role in recovery?
Mm-hmm. I'm an advocate for harm reduction. I know a lot of people aren't, but I think you have to start off small, start off anywhere. Baby steps count. And, my philosophy is pretty simple. You can't recover if you aren't alive, and harm reduction helps that. It's about safety and meeting the client exactly where they are. So I am a huge advocate with harm reduction and use it in my practice. Aside from just, being alive, the whole idea of people think all or nothing is scary. So just saying, instead of going from, drinking daily to stopping cold turkey, try and reduce that. And obviously that's what harm reduction is. You're reducing how much they use just to keep them going. And then as soon as they meet that requirement or whatever change that you're making, do a little more change. And then, instead of saying, okay, we're going to go to 0, we're going to go down to like 50 and then 25, and then you go down to 0. And that's not scary at all. As scary.
Mm-hmm. Yes, most definitely. Thank you for that. Last couple of questions. Do you have a message for anyone who's listening to this podcast who's going through an addiction, Sabrina? What would you say to them?
I think my biggest message is recognize that you're not broken. You're not alone. You're struggling. Don't erase your successes or your value as a person. It takes so much courage to face these things. You don't have to white knuckle it or do it on your own. There's a way to find peace and regain control again. And you don't have to lose yourself in the process. So reach out, not only to people in your community, but also any friend or family member.
I love that. Thank you so much. So last question, can you tell our listeners how to best to contact you and to find your services online?
So the best way is probably my website. It's sabrinacounseling.com. I provide online therapy for anyone physically located in Iowa. So you need to be in the state, otherwise I cannot. Though I do have resources and national resources on my website too. So if you ever need mental health resources, that's an option. But if you want to learn more about my specialties or book a session, then sabrinacounseling.com is where you'll see it.
Excellent. We'll make sure we have a link in the notes as well below this video. But Sabrina, Thank you so much for being a guest today. I've really appreciated your time, and I wish you all the very best for your career. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I am proud to be here and happy to be here. Thanks, Chris.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Sabrina.